in India. Very, very common. And we are going to discover why diabetes is endemic in India. We know we've got different types of diabetes, type 1 and 2, and with the methodology, we know what is behind it. And now we go and identify the social pattern within India. So Anu, what is your experience?
I think the major reasons why people get diabetes here is, again, what he was asking me, a little while back, that are people allowed to follow their heart? If you're not following your heart, you're going to feel bitter inside. And then you got to compensate that bitterness by eating sweets or wanting sweets. It's like a vicious cycle that's going on. You're feeling bitter, you're craving for sweet, and then you're not getting that sweet. So you're compensating it maybe with foods, but in reality it's not the food that's causing the problem, it's you not getting something. And which way are we not getting that softness? Maybe a child who is going to go to school, or maybe the child who's going to go to college and find an appropriate job for himself. He's been told by his parents, no, you can't do anything creative. You have to run our business. You have to obey us. You have to get married to that man just because we ask you to. Because if you get married to someone else, that's traditionally and socially not okay. And this is almost like saying, you will swallow down that bitter pill, but you will live your life smilingly, showing everybody that all is well. In my experience, that's one of the biggest reasons that people are in the places or in situations or with people that they are not happy with. Thank you.
So it means that people are being told what to do and they resist it. And
Yes.
they feel disgusted about what they have to do.
Yes?
Okay. So, Kavita, please. Do you have clients with diabetes?
I had a juvenile diabetes case. The child had come to me when he was 18 and he was suffering from diabetes from the age of 12. He was already taking insulin injections 3 times a day. And I think my biggest challenge was allowing the child to talk. Again, we go back to like being able to listen. And I think for 2 hours, I was just listening to him. I was making my notes, but I was just listening to him. He had so much to tell. And the biggest thing was that the parents were constantly fighting, and he was in between the two of them, not knowing which side to go. And of course, in India, it's very difficult to get out of marriages. And he knew very well that I don't want my parents to separate, but at the same time, he didn't know how to live with them peacefully. And the father was the main culprit, I would say, in this case, because he was taking all the decisions without involving the wife, without involving the children. They had a beautiful life in US. All of a sudden, one fine day, he took a decision to come back to India. So that was his first conflict. Second conflict, in India, the father was absolutely okay with him eating non-veg and everything. All of a sudden, because he was in India, he stopped all non-veg. So the child constantly was struggling between the life he had and the life he was now being forced to live. So a huge amount of disgust. I mean, I think if we could have given him his free will, he would have killed his father. I had to actually create a mannequin out of a pillow and give it to him, where he has beaten up his father for 1 hour to get his anger out. 6 months of therapy with me, where I was meeting him once a week. And after 6 months, he was completely out of the juvenile diabetes. The report showed that he was clear of diabetes. His insulin had stopped everything, but unfortunately, I couldn't change his environment because he was still living with the father. And the father saw to it that he got the diabetes back. And finally, that child has now left India and he's gone away to New Zealand.
So thank you much. That was a very, very profound illustration about what is happening with the within the families and where the conflicts lie. Okay, we come back there. So we come back to nutrition.
Now, diabetes, when we say we crave for sweets, as Anu rightly said, that everyone wants the sweetness. But we go back to nature. When we always say our body naturally heals, right? So when our body is craving for something sweet, we need to resort back to nature. What is naturally sweet? It's actually the fruits, the dry fruits, that's the dates, the raisins, the apricots. They're the natural sweeteners. But most of the food that we are consuming is either processed, polished, refined. That itself will only give us a satisfaction at the level of the taste buds, the tongue. Once it goes back in the body for the digestion, the body will give a loud signal, this is not what I want. So it will again repeat the craving of have some sweet. This would definitely be hand in hand with the emotions. I completely stand by that if there is no stress, the disease will not come. That is something I can say definitely is what allopathy really doesn't look at so much. But the replacement for the sweet when we come to, I would like as a nutritionist to point out that the natural sweeteners is what we really need to go back. We really need to touch nature. Coming to diabetes, the production of insulin. There are two types. One is that the body is not producing insulin or producing less insulin. The second type, which is more prevalent in India, is the hyperinsulinemia. In fact, the sugars are showing high in the report, but the insulin reports are showing higher than normal. So it is due to, again, we come back to the visceral fat, which is a fat surrounding the pancreas. This is also related to the diet that we follow. Most of our genes are the thrifty genes, as the research says, that India has become the diabetes capital. So genetically, we are eating much more carbs which we are not able to digest. Our meals are predominantly a lot of carbs. And since we have refined it and we have reduced our physical activity, this is piling in, and the demand for insulin is creating a hyperinsulinemia, which is burning out the pancreas. On another aspect I would like to add here is that a lot of the animals, the hens or the cows, are being fed in with hormones to increase the production. When the hormones are going through these foods in our body, like for example I'll give you, if a simple hen were to produce eggs naturally, it would produce on an average of 25 eggs in a year. But statistics say that now they're producing approximately 250 to 270 eggs in a year because the egg whites demand has increased. Every dietitian, every gym trainer, everybody just jots down, take 4 egg whites, take 6 egg whites to build up the muscle. Now what happens is, where do these egg whites come from? So then the egg demand increases. There's a lot of hormones being pumped in the hen, and these hormones enter in our body along with the stress hormones that the cow or the hen were to go through. So it may not be our own personal stress also. It could be also what we have inherited through their stress hormones. Sorry, not inherited, ingested. But at the same time, this imbalances the insulin as a hormone in our body. So a lot of diabetes we are reversing through diet by stopping all animal foods. It's now being popular that a vegan diet can also reverse diabetes. Just stop all animal source and it will reverse, be it insulin dependent or non-insulin dependent. It's really worth a try instead of taking lifelong medicines. That's what I would like to add here. And remaining basic principles do remain the same. A lot of fiber in the food, a lot of water, good exercise, and absolutely enjoying all the variety of food, but in moderation. That's the key word. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much. So Richard, would you like to share your experience with diabetic clients?
I'd like to say what we've been finding out quite recently in my work, because I think Dr. Diana Stefani Hunyadi and LJ, her husband, have been doing incredible work with diabetes. And one of the things we found and is this whole idea of this resistance conflict, which is and the resistance conflict and also the fear and disgust conflict. These come up a lot, and people get addicted to it, which is really interesting. So that led me on to look more at the whole idea of the addiction, because my belief, and we're just tipping over on this balance at the moment, my belief is that we get addicted to the sugar. There's no doubt about that. How many people like sugar here? How many people like chapati? How many people like bread, rice, carbohydrates? Yeah, come on. Not who doesn't, right? It's nice. Okay. Cake. Yeah, we love the cake, yeah? So the cake makes us feel good, and the sugars make us feel good. And what we've discovered and we're working on at the moment is the whole idea of the addiction is instead of our traditional Odum moment, which is this fear, disgust conflict and this resistance conflict, these are also linked to a place called the nucleus accumbens, which actually has positive Odum moments, which is really interesting, especially when you go in there. They're the type of things where it feels so good, but it is so wrong. Yeah? I want to eat that cake. It tastes so good, but I know it's going to chuck on the pounds, and it's so wrong. And if you have two of these, then you seem to get this combination of two Odins opposite each other, which fight each other, which then comes to the fact, how do we solve this? Because we can't solve it with just going in and doing just one, say, maybe going into the resistance conflict and solving that, and then the fear, disgust conflict and solving that. That doesn't seem to deal with it. We still have this addiction to sugar, which may just be a carbohydrate or bread or the whole idea of not being able to change the diet. So what we're finding, if we go in and we find the positive Odum moments, which are often around when mummy or daddy used to take me for a treat. They used to take me down to the special store where there was that gorgeous candy, and that just reminded me of the love that my father had for me, or my grandmother had for me, or my mother. We used to bake together. We had 5 children, one client this was, 5 other children, and it was the only time she ever spent with her mother was cooking. And she used to lick the bowl, and this was then created this sugar attraction. And you have to have 2 of them, 2 positive Odum moments in the nucleus accumbens. Shall I show you where they are? They're just around here, in around here, one here and one here. Quite interesting, very, very close, if you know the mental health stuff, to the heart, coronary arteries and the coronary veins, and the heart rhythm centers. So it, you know when you get sugar, you get that, or it slows down. And there must be a link. I haven't seen it yet. Is there a question there? No. Great aunt catalepsy. So what? Yeah, crazy.
So you are just saying that this craving for sugar, for carbohydrates, is a compensation because, like Anu said, the sweetness in the life and the connection to the father or the mother, the parents is not there. And this resistance, is it mainly within the families or is it more in the job context? What is your experience here in India?
It's mainly in the family, because that is one place where they are not really being able to fight it out. Because if it is a problem with friends, they can still fight it out, leave the friend, find another friend. They can't find another father. They can't find another mother. They don't have another home. And even as per what Anu has taught us in the trainings, we split the words of the diseases. So when we had taken the word diabetes, it is dia and betes. So it is BTs means extreme anger towards someone or something. So actually even in the word diabetes, the anger comes in, the resistance comes in, the entire disgust comes in. And when I worked on each of these emotions, the fear, the resistance, the anger, it was then that I was able to get him out of that place. So it is tremendous in the family.
And
If you look at the word insulin,
Yeah.
insulin, and if you really break down the word, it sounds like something inside you like sin. It's something that's inside you like sin that you're feeling so guilty about that you take the coefficient of love away from you.
We also found something else. There's a question coming up. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is, then what about the hereditary diabetes and the generation diabetes? We in India, we used to say if father or mother is having diabetes, then their children should have, and it's a hereditary pattern. So what it is?
Okay, come to the allopathy science first. What we study in our textbooks, if one parent has got diabetes, 40% chance the child will get. If both the parents have, 80% chance the child will get. 20% is still in your hand. I would still look at it. It is dependent on your nature, your lifestyle. Now, when we look at the disease per se, in any family, in a hereditary, in a genetic form, in a hospital setup also, I'll just give you an example. If I have a businessman, like I was with Hindujas, it's a Sindhi hospital, so you have a lot of these patients who are in a business clan. So if the person is, let's say, owning a shop, his son is in the same shop, he starts looking after some years like the father, he has the same disease like the father. Okay, now let's say there is a father who is running a shop and a business, and the son decides to take a corporate job. He doesn't get the same disease because the behavior pattern changed. This is something that allopathy honestly didn't teach us, because we went holistic and really decided to learn beyond what calories or what basic thing is there in the textbook, that we realized, yes, this makes sense. So ultimately what I would say, answering to your question, genetic is one thing that I cannot change. That's something I'm born with. But what I can change, let me focus on that. So I can change on a lifestyle. What I think, what I put in my mouth, how I breathe, that all is what we need to work on. Instead of only, sitting and getting upset, okay, my family has it, so that's my future. That's just a belief. Yeah? Kavita, would you like to add something?
There's a question here, or a remark from Rob from Overbruggen from Netherlands.
Regarding a client of mine, she was 74. Since age 20, she was having diabetes. And within 2 minutes, we reduced her medication by 50%. You want to know why? How? How many want to know? Okay. It's very simple. Make sure you write it down. Make sure you write it down. Go to your doctor. Ask to reconsider your medication. Because for the last 50 years, nobody looked at the amount of medication she was taking.
Thank you for this insight.
This is going back.
Yeah, I think you see here.
Any question that you need to ask other than the panel members, you can do so after the conference is over. I hope you all don't mind me saying this.
Can I just mention one last thing about addiction? It's a lot of work that we're doing in my work around addiction. It's very, very big in the United States and Canada. And like I said, these nucleus accumbens are very important pieces, which are the pleasure centers of the body. And I'll repeat it, the Odum moments are pleasurable. Okay, but they feel so wrong, but they feel so, they are so nice. Now, the other thing I also wanted to say that we also discovered is people get addicted to insulin. Okay? Yeah. So they get addicted to the insulin. So you actually have to deal with the addiction to the insulin as well as the addiction to the sugar. It's a madness. So it's a lot of work. to actually get people off of injecting, and we do that. And it's quite very demanding. And that's actually Dr. Diana and LJ do the majority of that work. Okay.
Thank you. Answering your question, this is what I've learned from Anu, that there is nothing like genetic problem, it's energetic. Whatever you have picked up from your parents, energetically, at an emotional level, also decides what happens in your body. And I think Robert had also mentioned that when we were talking about the kidneys, that his parents had an isolation conflict, which he has also picked up. So similarly, it can be possible that you've picked up some such emotion from your parent. And another thing that I've noticed with diabetes is that there's a lot of power loss. Because in this particular case of this child also, when he was shifted from US back to India, he just did not know what to do. He was stuck in the past of a life that he wanted and between the life that he was being forced to have. So there was a complete power loss. And the only way he was being able to get back his power is by fighting his father. So he would definitely do something to make him mad and then fight it out with him. You get it?
So that's what I want to ask Anu. What are there for possibilities that in the case that Kavita shared, how can you get in the conversation within your family to try to resolve this resistance?
So since it's last 5 minutes, I'm going to share something and answer your question. Like I mentioned, I think yesterday in the award function that I did go through massive heart attacks last year at this time. And what was interesting, there's a gentleman sitting behind Dr. Jacob. And can you please stand up, Dr. Jacob? Thank you. Now, he's not my doctor, but I wanted to know after my cardiologist checked me, because he does 3D scanning, how was the position of my body. My cardiologist said, my heart is now like a 10-year-old. But it's very interesting, the connection that I could form was, he also predicted, Mr. Jacob, that I am heading to insulin resistance when I don't have diabetes. I kind of just sat down and said, how is that possible? And yes, to answer your question, I've been in a very difficult situation for the last 3 years now, 4 years. And it's not about talking about your life and making you understand it. It's about maybe you'll gain something and not get into a situation that I did. So like I mentioned before, I wanted softness from Vikram, that's my husband. And all I asked him, can you give me softness? And all he gave me was opposite of anything that's called softness. My body, even though my heart recouped, my body was constantly resisting. And to answer back your question, this is the most difficult part of an Indian family. I have done everything that I can think of, including talking to him in a sweet manner, in a nice way, using all kind of communication skills. But you know, in a partnership, it's not just that you have to change. Can I just borrow you for a minute? Yes. Can you just stand? Can you just do this? Okay, I just want to show you this, okay? If I am like this with my husband, and I am resisting, or can you push? Or he is resisting, it's a dance we are doing. This is the dance we are doing. This is the dance we are doing every day. This is the dance we are doing morning, evening, night. This is the dance that's creating the problem. Either I stop dancing. I have a brilliant husband. Either I stop doing the dance and change it. For that, if I keep waiting for him to change, the change will never happen. The change will only happen, and if I can borrow you again. I have to give him what I'm asking from him. I have to give him softness, for him to give me softness back. And that's the answer to your question. Thank you.
I just want to complete it, and I want to go back to the complex question of the young lady. I take it very, very serious what you were asking, because it's a complex situation with the kidney, with the heart, and with the diabetes, and I completely understand why you asked that. The point is that when there is such a complexity of disorders, it means that the system, the environment where this person is living or growing up is very, very dense, full of this kind of dance that Anu just showed between her and her husband. And the most important is not to ask, could the doctors have prevented something, but to get in a conversation in your environment. And in a conversation means to begin to listen. And then not ask what can the others do, but what is it that I can do to give up my resistance. And when I give up my resistance, I can open up and I can create a new realm of communication where there's also the possibility for the other one to be different. So that's very important. In your own environment, do everything you can to get in conversation. You want to respond? Okay. How many minutes do we have?